Imagine walking into any conversation, whether it's with your boss, your partner, or even that friend who always seems to have the upper hand, and knowing, without a shadow of a doubt, that you're in control. Not because you're louder, not because you're dominating the room, but because you've mastered the subtle art of saying just enough at just the right time. Sounds powerful, doesn't it? Yet most of us stumble through communication, over-explaining, getting defensive, or letting our emotions hijack the moment. And let's be real, it's exhausting. But what if I told you there's a way to communicate with such clarity, such precision, that you not only command respect, but also protect your energy and peace of mind? In this video, we're diving into the Stoics' Guide to Effective Communication, a bold, no-nonsense approach that strips away the noise and gets to the core of what it really takes to connect, influence, and thrive in any conversation. This isn't your typical say this, not that advice. We're talking about techniques rooted in ancient wisdom and sharpened for the modern world. And yes, some of it might challenge what you've been taught about how to communicate effectively. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you'll have practical, game-changing tools that will forever shift how you approach every interaction. This is about reclaiming your voice, your power, and your peace. And it all starts with a single decision: to speak with purpose. Ready to learn how? Let's get started. Number 1. The pause of power. Imagine this. You're in a conversation, and someone says something that rubs you the wrong way. Maybe it's a passive-aggressive remark, a completely wrong assumption, or just something so off the mark that you feel your body gearing up for battle. Your heart races. Your brain starts crafting the perfect comeback. And before you know it, boom, you've blurted out something you wish you could take back. Sound familiar? Yeah, we've all been there. Now here's a twist that might make you pause, literally. What if, instead of reacting instantly, you trained yourself to do something radical? You paused. Not for dramatic effect, not to prove a point, but simply to gather yourself. 3 seconds of silence that could change the trajectory of the entire conversation. Yes, trust me on this one. It's not weakness, it's not awkward, it's a superpower. Here's why it works. In those 3 seconds, your brain goes from emotional overdrive to strategic thinking. Neuroscience even backs this up. Your prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for reasoning, kicks in just long enough to save you from saying something impulsive. You get to choose your response, not just fling it out there like verbal confetti. And before you think, that's easy to say but hard to do, let me share a little story. A while back, I found myself in a heated meeting at work. You know the type. Big egos, high stakes, and everyone talking over each other. Someone made a snarky comment about my project, and I could feel the words rising in my throat, sharp and ready to cut. But then I remembered this idea, the pause of power. I took a deep breath and counted silently. 1, 2, 3. In that tiny window, I realized my initial response wasn't worth it. Instead, I calmly said, "Interesting point. Can you elaborate?" The room went quiet. The person looked stunned, and then they scrambled to justify their remark. The conversation shifted entirely in my favor. This isn't just about winning arguments. It's about reclaiming control over yourself and the situation. Think about it. How many times have you said something you regretted, only to spend hours replaying it in your head? Pausing spares you that mental torture. It's like hitting a reset button before you act. And yes, it can feel unnatural at first. People might even call it weird. Let them. Because while they're rushing to react, you're playing the long game. This is about more than just words. It's about protecting your peace, showing strength without aggression, and proving to yourself that you're in control. It's about mastering the art of response, not reaction. So next time you feel the heat rising, remember this. Your power lies in the pause. 1, 2, 3. And just like that, the conversation is yours to steer. Number 2. Emotionless empathy. Let me hit you with an idea that might sound a little strange at first. You can be deeply empathetic without letting emotions get the best of you. Wait, what? Isn't empathy all about feeling what someone else feels? Yes, but hear me out. Emotionless empathy is about understanding and acknowledging someone else's emotions without letting their emotional state dictate yours. It's a little unconventional, I know, but stick with me on this because it just might be the most powerful communication tool you've ever used. Think about it. How often have you been in a situation where someone is venting and before you know it, you're just as stressed or angry as they are? A friend rants about their toxic coworker and suddenly your blood pressure is rising. Or maybe a family member unloads their frustration and you find yourself spiraling right along with them. We've all been there, nodding and fuming in solidarity. But here's the thing. What did it accomplish? Did it solve the problem or just leave you emotionally drained? Emotionless empathy flips the script. It lets you show you care without losing yourself in the chaos. Here's how it works. When someone comes to you in an emotional storm, you acknowledge their feelings, truly, deeply, but you stay grounded. Instead of matching their energy, you become a calm, steady presence. I hear you. That sounds frustrating. How can I help? These words say, I see your pain, without inviting their stress to move in and take over your emotional real estate. Now, I know what you're thinking. Won't this come across as cold? Not if you do it right. Emotionless empathy isn't about being detached or robotic. It's about being present without being consumed. Let me share a quick story. A while ago, my friend called me, completely panicked about a presentation they had bombed. Their voice was shaking and they kept repeating, I ruined everything. My instinct was to jump in with, oh no, that's awful. I'd feel the same way. But instead, I paused and said, that sounds really tough. What do you think went wrong? As they talked, I stayed calm. I didn't mirror their panic, and you know what happened? They started calming down too. By the end of the call, they weren't spiraling anymore. They were planning their next steps. All because I didn't let their emotional wave knock me over. This approach isn't just about protecting your peace, it's about being a better support system. When you stay grounded, you give the other person space to process their emotions without feeding into the frenzy. It's like being the eye of the storm, calm, clear, and steady, while everything else swirls around you. So, the next time someone unloads their emotions on you, try this. Pause, breathe, and remember that their feelings are theirs, not yours. Acknowledge them, show them you care, and then offer solutions, or just your steady presence. This is about reclaiming your emotional balance while still being there for others. It's about strength wrapped in compassion. Emotionless empathy isn't cold, it's empowering, for you and for them. And here's the real beauty. When you master this, you show people that it's possible to face challenges without losing control. You become an anchor in their storm and in your own life. So go ahead, practice this art of calm connection. Because in a world full of emotional chaos, your peace is your power. Number 3. Speak less, mean more. Let me start with a bold claim. Most of us talk too much. Not because we're trying to annoy anyone, but because we think the more we say, the more convincing, likable, or intelligent we'll seem. Spoiler alert, it's usually the opposite. Long-winded explanations often dilute our message, and instead of impressing people, we overwhelm them. The truth? Saying less can be infinitely more powerful. Don't believe me? Let's dive into this idea. You know that moment in a conversation where someone keeps talking and you're mentally checking out, nodding just to be polite. Maybe you've been that person before. We all have. Whether it's at a work meeting, a family gathering, or even a casual chat with friends, we felt the need to fill every silence with words, as if silence is some kind of social failure. But here's the thing. When you speak less, every word carries more weight. It's like the difference between a stream of water and a single focused beam of light. Which one cuts deeper? Speaking less doesn't mean you're being rude or aloof. It means you're being intentional. When you strip your words down to their essence, people pay attention. It forces you to think about what you really want to say and how to say it clearly. And before you think, but what if I come across as too blunt? Let me tell you a little story. A few months ago, I was in a brainstorming session at work, and everyone was throwing ideas around like spaghetti at a wall. The room was chaotic, and honestly, no one was really listening to anyone else. When it was my turn to speak, I did something different. Instead of jumping into the noise, I paused, thought carefully, and then said, "What if we focused on just this one idea and built around it?" That was it. One sentence. And the entire room stopped. Suddenly, people were nodding, agreeing, and the conversation shifted. I didn't need 5 minutes to explain my point. 10 seconds did the trick. The beauty of speaking less is that it forces you to value your own voice. You stop rambling and start delivering. It's like editing a masterpiece. You remove the fluff and leave only the brilliance. Yes, it takes practice, and yes, it can feel uncomfortable at first. But the results? Incredible. People will start leaning in when you talk, knowing that when you do, it matters. This isn't just about communication. It's about reclaiming your presence. When you speak with intention, you're showing self-respect. You're saying, "My words matter, and I won't waste them or your time." It's about stepping into conversations with purpose and confidence, not to dominate, but to leave an impact. So the next time you feel the urge to over-explain, stop. Take a breath. Choose your words like you're curating a gallery. Fewer pieces, greater impact. Remember, speaking less doesn't mean you're saying less. It means you're saying what matters most. Your clarity is your power. Your words are your legacy. Speak less, mean more, and watch how the world starts listening. Number 4. Disagree and conquer. Let's flip the script on something we've all been taught to avoid: disagreement. Most of us are hardwired to think that disagreeing means conflict, awkwardness, or even losing relationships. But what if I told you that disagreeing, when done right, could be your secret weapon for connection, influence, and growth? It's not about being a contrarian for the sake of it. It's about showing the courage to stand by your perspective while respecting someone else's. Disagreeing isn't about division. It's about clarity and progress. Intrigued? Let's unpack this. We've all been there. You're in a conversation and someone says something you don't agree with. Maybe it's a friend's hot take on relationships, a coworker's half-baked idea in a meeting, or even your family's unsolicited advice. What do most of us do? We nod politely, maybe throw in a half-hearted, interesting, and let the moment pass. Why? Because disagreeing feels risky. We don't want to seem difficult, hurt someone's feelings, or worse, escalate into an argument. But here's the kicker. By avoiding disagreement, we miss out on deeper understanding and real connection. Disagreeing effectively doesn't mean launching into debate mode or raising your voice. It means mastering the art of graceful pushback. Picture this. Someone shares an idea you don't agree with. Instead of shutting them down or staying silent, you lean in and say, "That's an interesting perspective. Can I share how I see it?" Simple, non-threatening, and it opens the door for dialogue instead of a dead end. Disagreement done this way isn't divisive, it's constructive. Let me share a story to bring this to life. A while ago, during a team meeting, my manager proposed an approach to a project that, in my gut, I knew wouldn't work. My instinct was to stay quiet. I mean, who wants to be that person contradicting their boss? But instead I spoke up. I said, I like the direction, but I'm wondering if there's a way to tackle this differently. What if we tried X instead? To my surprise, they didn't shut me down. They asked questions. The team explored the idea, and eventually we landed on a hybrid solution that worked even better. If I'd stayed silent, we might have missed that opportunity. Here's the magic of disagreeing well. It shows strength, respect, and engagement. When you disagree thoughtfully, you're telling the other person, I'm listening, I care enough to challenge this, and I value this conversation enough to bring my perspective. It's a compliment wrapped in courage. Of course, it takes practice. The key is to stay calm, curious, and respectful. Avoid phrases like, you're wrong, or that doesn't make sense. Instead, try, have you thought about this angle? Or, I see it differently, here's why. This shifts the energy from confrontation to collaboration. Disagreeing effectively is about reclaiming your voice without stepping on someone else's. It's about showing that disagreement isn't the end of a conversation. It's the start of a better one. And when you master this, you don't just win arguments, you win respect. So the next time you feel the urge to disagree, don't hold back. Speak up, but do it with care and intention. Disagree and conquer, not by overpowering, but by empowering. Because when you can disagree gracefully, you don't just change the conversation, you change the game. Number 5. The art of strategic silence. Silence. It's the one tool most people underestimate, yet it's one of the most powerful moves you can make in any conversation. Sounds counterintuitive, right? After all, we're taught that communication is all about words. What you say, how you say it, when you say it. But here's the twist. Sometimes saying nothing at all speaks the loudest. Now, you might be thinking, silence? That's awkward, isn't it? Yes, it can be, but trust me, when used strategically, silence isn't just the absence of words, it's the presence of power. We've all had those moments. You're in a heated debate and someone throws out a comment that's meant to provoke you. Your instincts scream at you to fire back, to defend yourself, to set the record straight. Or maybe you're in a negotiation and the other person offers a deal you're unsure about. The temptation to fill the silence is overwhelming, isn't it? Because silence feels uncomfortable. It feels like a void that must be filled. But here's the secret. The person who can sit with the silence often holds the upper hand. Silence is like a pause button in a world that's constantly on fast forward. It creates space to think, to listen, to let the other person reveal more than they intended. Imagine you're in a conversation where someone is trying to dominate or persuade you. Instead of rushing to respond, you let their words linger in the air. The silence forces them to fill the gap, often over-explaining or revealing their true intentions. That's the power of strategic silence. It flips the dynamic without you lifting a finger. I remember a time when this worked like magic. I was in a meeting where a colleague was pushing hard for a decision I wasn't ready to make. They laid out their argument and ended with, "So, what do you think?" Normally, I'd feel pressured to respond immediately, but this time I paused. I stayed quiet, meeting their gaze without a word. The room grew tense. They started fidgeting, then backtracked, saying, "Of course, we can take more time to consider if needed." Bingo. Without saying a thing, I had shifted the narrative. Silence works because it forces others to confront their own thoughts and words. It disrupts the rhythm they're used to, making them reassess and often giving you the upper hand. But let's be clear, strategic silence isn't about manipulation. It's about intention. It's about knowing when to hold back so your words, when they do come, carry more weight. The beauty of silence is that it empowers both you and the other person. It shows you're confident enough not to fill every gap with noise. It also gives the other person the chance to reflect and clarify, leading to more meaningful exchanges. In a way, silence becomes a bridge, not a barrier. So, the next time you're in a conversation, try this. Resist the urge to respond right away. Let the silence settle. Watch how the dynamic shifts. Whether it's in a negotiation, an argument, or even a casual chat, you'll notice how much more control you have when you let silence do the talking. Because here's the thing, in a world where everyone is trying to be heard, the one who masters the art of strategic silence doesn't just speak, they command. And that, my friends, is a skill worth mastering. Thank you so much for watching the Stoic's Guide to Effective Communication. I truly hope this video gave you some fresh insights, or maybe even shifted the way you think about how you express yourself and connect with others. If you found it valuable, please give it a thumbs up. It really helps the channel grow and reach more people who could benefit from these ideas. And hey, if this resonated with you, why not subscribe? There's so much more coming your way. Practical tools, timeless wisdom, and strategies to help you navigate life with clarity and purpose. Don't forget to share this video with someone who might be struggling with communication or simply wants to sharpen their skills. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Have you ever tried incorporating Stoic principles into how you communicate? Or maybe there's a situation where you wish you had. Let's keep the conversation going. I read every comment, and your perspective matters. Remember, effective communication isn't just about what you say, it's about how you show up. Protect your peace and stay true to your values. Until next time, keep speaking with purpose and living with intention. You've got this. See you in the next video.